Davis has finally woken up and gotten in the game. Starz has released an exclusive clip of a scene from episode 8, season 3 of Power Book 2 Ghosts. What's good, y'all? It's your good sis, Erica Vane, coming to you right here on Erica Vane TV to break down this exclusive clip that we got where we're seeing Diana meet with Saxe and Davis regarding her being snatched up by the feds. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss out when I have these Power Book 2 content conversations, okay? And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So this little teaser clip starts off with Davis saying, "From now on, you talk to me." And Saxe corrects him and says, "You talk to us." And that is our first clue of how Davis is actually coming into this.
Okay, Diana, first off, from now on, you only talk to me.
Us.
You should be out real quick. I mean, they don't have a case against you and they know it.
If you missed it, I did do a preview for episode 8 where I talked about not only the exclusive photos that they dropped, but the trailer that they gave at the end of last week's episode. And we get to see Davis actually eavesdropping down the hall from Jenny and Saxe. And I think that this is when he starts to really register and put 2 and 2 together, that Saxe is not actually on his side and he's working with Jenny and not the other way around how it's supposed to be. Now, this was already seeded last episode when Tariq was talking about the case being mounted against him, and Davis was like, "Yo, Saxe, figure out what's going on." And Saxe kept coming back vehemently talking about there's nothing. There's no case building. No, there's no nothing. So that initially piqued Davis's interest and made him, I think, start to be like, is there something else I need to look in here? Because for the most part, he can actually trust Tariq. If that information is coming from Tariq, then it has to have some kind of legs to it. And as his lawyer, he has to be able to protect him. And I think that it's once Davis is in this hallway and overhears whatever Saxe and Jenny is talking about, that he's like, oh yeah, Saxe is going to be a problem, but he's not going to let on to it that easy. And I love this because this is something that we typically get from a character like Monet. You know, Lorenzo has already mentioned that Monet is a type of person who never shows her card, and I love that this is kind of like rubbing off on Davis, and he's not just blowing up Saxe's spot in this moment. He's going to figure out how he can use this to his advantage. And again, and he does something in this particular scene, which we're going to talk about, that further sets Saxe up for what they're about to have happen moving forward. Now, to speak to my point about Davis finally getting his ass in the game, it's like I've been watching this season and really thoroughly kind of disappointed in Davis because I feel like he's not worth the money and the trouble that comes with him. For him to have basically let Saxe find out about the burner phone, Saxe got Monet's number from it, which was also able to help link the whole consigliere thing. When Monet mentioned, like, don't be calling me crazy, and he's like, yo, I never called you. That didn't spark nothing for him to go and investigate and actually look into it. He ain't pull no phone records or nothing. Like, there's just, like, he allowed basically Whitman's file to be there, so Saxe was able to find that. And I'm just looking at Davis this whole season like, yo, you just being hella sloppy. Like, Proctor would never. So for him to have this moment coming up in episode 8, I'm like, finally, because at this point, Method Man is just giving them looks, but Davis ain't giving what supposed to give, and we need to find some kind of other cutthroat, on it, sharp attorney to be able to handle business. But again, this scene proves that Davis is actually paying attention. His head is on a swivel, and he got something coming for anybody that's coming for him or his clients. Now, after Saxe makes the correction of like, no, you don't just talk to Davis, you talk to us, Davis says, you'll be out real quick. They don't actually have a case against you. And then Saxe in this clip says, well, they actually do have the video. And this sparks them to bickering. And this is honestly reminiscent of, was it last season or season before? Can't remember. Previous season when they were representing Tariq. And basically Davis got pissed with Saxe because in the jail, while like having a conversation with Tariq, Saxe was asking questions that was basically going to get him to admit his guilt, and that would make their job 10 times harder in reference to getting him off. They didn't actually need to use that information. You could tell that we're going down that route with this conversation with Diana right here. Like, if she doesn't know what's in the bag and she can't speak to this or that, then that is like plausible deniability and sets them up to be able to get her case dismissed. But Saxe sitting up here talking about, well, she ain't answer and she ain't say she ain't know what was in the bag and she ain't testified. It's like, sir, Davis is like, as they're sitting there at the table, I think that Davis is collecting more information and really realizing how much of a threat that Saxe is. Now, as Saxe and Davis start to bicker, Diana gets frustrated, tells both of them to shut up, and lets them know, like, yo, this is what I want. They talking about coming for my family. I can't let that happen. So regardless, everything falls on me. Now, if I did know what's in the bag, and then that's when Davis is like, oh, hell to the no. I went back and rewatched the scene quite a bit because I was trying to figure out when did Davis actually write the note that he gave to Diana. I wanted to figure out if he may have came into the room with it already written, or if he wrote it while they were talking. And I think it's like right after Diana says what she wants, and he says understood, we get to see him look down and like his hand starts to move, or like his shoulder moves, and I think that, you know, his hand is moving, and he writes it in that moment. And I think, again, it's through this conversation, through this bickering back and forth with Saxe, that he's really starting to put things together in real time of like, okay, Saxe can't be trusted. How do I neutralize this as best I can so that she doesn't say too much information, so I can get him out this damn room, and then I can figure out a better strategy to reorganize and set him up outside of here. And then we get the coffee spill, which is utterly brilliant. Before Diana can actually admit to knowing what's in the bag, Davis knocks over the coffee onto Saxe and to the notepad, and this makes him need to leave. And then at the same time, he passes a note over to Diana that reads, put Saxe on Effie, trust me. And y'all, this part is making me a little bit nervous, a little bit stressed. I talked about this in the preview video. Again, I'll link it in the cards above as well as the description box down below. But they're about to set up Effie. And the biggest thing that's stressing me about this is if Tariq actually knows or not, or if Monet is pulling one of the classic Monet moves and telling people half the plan and compromising one person or two people without the full group actually knowing what they're signing up for, so that people go along with it. And then at the end of the day, they caught with the trick bag of like, well, you thought we was doing this, but we're actually doing this. And then Effie ends up in whole ass jail. I would love to know what y'all think. Like, I don't like Effie as a character. I don't trust her, and she frustrates me. Alex Lepre looks amazing, and Tariq and Effie be looking great sometimes together. But I don't like Effie's character, but I also don't want her to necessarily take the fall, even though she still owed that lick back from Choke from snitching on Tariq. But I don't want her to actually take the fall. So it's interesting to me where we're about to go. If Diana is going to point Saxe into Effie's direction, and then everything starts to shift to like maybe move the Rico out of like focusing on Tariq and maybe focusing on Effie, how are they going to actually bridge those connections? Whew. And regardless, if this is Monet's plan, it might take Tariq out of the play in reference to kingpin status within this Rico, and he could fall to like a soldier thing and put Effie there. But Monet would still be sitting side by side with whichever kid that they align this to, that like was built up on, you know, Stansfield's campus in reference to the drug organization there. Monet is still gonna be sitting top of this whole Rico. So I don't know if the plan to pin everything on Effie is actually going to work out how she might expect it to put them all in the clear. But I would love to know what y'all thoughts are in the comment section down below. That's my breakdown on this scene. It's really refreshing to see that Diana has a position of like, my family is not taking a fall regardless. I thought that she was capable of it, but I wasn't necessarily sure because sis be wanting too much validation and needing attention and like be acting out sometimes, but she's about to hold it down for the family and stand 10 toes down. So I appreciate that. And this, I believe, is going to be the start of her actually building herself up within the business, because up until now, Diana has just been adjacent to the business. She hasn't been about that life. She hasn't caught a body. She hasn't really sold drugs. Like, I don't count what she's doing at this little candy shop, this little bookstore at the school. Now, like, she's up against some years and having to have talks with feds and interrogations and being arrested. Now this is when it gets real. Now this is when your like villain origin story happens, and you start to shape yourself as a criminal and how you gonna move and what codes you're going to stick to and which ones you're not. And this is going to really be I think the foundation for if she's capable of being able to move with and or potentially lead the Tejada family moving forward. All right, y'all. Those are all my thoughts. I have new Power Book 2 Ghost videos dropping every day on the channel, so subscribe so you don't miss out when I post a new one. There's so much to talk about, and I got you. I'm your good sis you love to talk TV with. I cannot wait to continue to do so. I'm jumping into the comment section right now to see what y'all have to say about this clip, as well as what y'all are predicting for episode number 8. See you in the next one.